What's up, guys? My name is Ricardo Obregon, and welcome to my podcast, Invest with Obi. Today, I'm super excited here because I have Anthony Tran. Anthony is a Brazilian real estate investor with a background that will truly inspire you guys. I know it's inspired me. From surviving a rough upbringing, overcoming gang life and incarceration, to making millions in tech and bouncing back from financial collapse. His journey is nothing short of extraordinary. Now a thriving wholesaler and a real estate entrepreneur, Anthony is here to share how betting on yourself, even with odds stacked against you, can change your life. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you for having me.
So, dude, we've actually been trying to get this podcast going for the past couple of months now. And I thank you for actually, coming over here and doing this live with me. I really appreciate that, man.
Yeah, of course.
It does make me feel, heartfelt that you actually, came all this way from California to do this with me. And this is actually my first live podcast. So thank you so much, man. So when we were talking, getting this thing set up, you were kind of talking to me about your life, and I kind of want to share your life with our viewers. Sure. Because to me, it was like, I'm like, damn, this kid came through all this, and it just shows how resilient you are. So I want the viewers to kind of see what can happen if you actually put your mind, to the hard work, and actually bet on yourself. Because that's exactly what you did. And to me, it was like, holy crap! I haven't gone through half of the stuff that you went through, and I'm just in awe. So, first question to you is you came from a broken home and you turned to gangs early. I mean, can you talk to us about that, a little bit?
Yeah. So, grew up, both of my parents divorced 3 times each. So there was a lot of inconsistency in terms of, being a stable household, and I didn't really get a sense of family at home. And I was raised by a single mother, and she was undergoing multiple relationships that was toxic as well. And for me, I was just really a young kid just wanting to find a home. So, that turned me to being involved in selling drugs to make money, to feel included. That got me joining a criminal organization because I wanted to make more money and use their infrastructure and use the people there to up-level myself in the criminal lifestyle. So I did that from the age of 16 to 23. I, unfortunately, when I was 23 years old, got caught up, did 6 months in jail, went to the halfway house, and definitely learned a lot of lessons, and definitely bounced back.
Okay, thank you for that. So you said that you spent some time in jail. So when we spoke, you had told me that you basically got charged with 3 felonies and you had to spend some time in jail. How long did you spend in jail, and what was that like? Like being locked up for however many hours? It can't be easy. I don't know. I wouldn't know what to do with all that time. Like what did you do to keep busy? Did you read any books?
I was honestly intimidated, for sure. It was my first time, and I was the first one that got caught out of my crew. So I was the first one. So it was pretty scary, especially the first week. But, for me, I just kept to myself and do what I know that was supposed to be done, was to just better myself when I'm in there and to make it the best experience that I can make it for myself and to better myself in there. So I'm not sure if you watch Dragon Ball Z, but in that show, you go into this chamber and you just train. So I kind of treated it like that, where every day I was reading, I was working out, and I was just making sure I was in the right mindset. And of course, there is a lot of time on my hands here, but I was also hustling in there too, because I love playing poker. The currency in there is top ramen. So each ramen is a soup. So one soup is $1, equivalent to $1. So that's kind of the currency in there. I was getting a lot of top ramen. I was actually playing poker every single day because I love playing poker and just really outsmarting people. And I ate really good, to be honest. I ate really good. And I'm a cook. I'm a good cook. So I made some really good meals in there. And people were like, hey man, how did you make that? I make Asian meals because that's what I know. So they always turn to me and like, hey, can you make me that? I'm like, I got you, bro.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That is freaking awesome. So you said you read some books. So what book did you read in there that helped you with that mindset? Because as we know, as entrepreneurs, mindset is everything.
Yeah. It was so long ago, but a book I did remember I think it's called The Secret, where
I read that. Love that.
Yeah,
book.
The Secret was one. The 7 Habits of Effective People is another one. I forgot the other books that I've read, but oh yeah, one thing I also picked up was playing chess.
Okay.
Yeah, that was just to keep my mind stimulated as well. So that was another big hobby I picked up.
That's awesome. Okay, damn. So you spent some time in there. Apparently, you were the go-to guy. You know, damn, dude. I can't imagine spending. How long did you do? About 6 months. 6 months.
Yeah.
In jail, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I got a public defender's. You know.
Okay.
So yeah, I got the maximum time pretty much.
Not this. Okay, perfect. All right, so you got out of jail, and basically when you remember correctly, you went back to gangbanging, right? For a while.
Right away.
But you actually went to a halfway house, right? Like what happened, finally that basically shifted your path to, hey, you know what? I need to get better. I'm tired of living this lifestyle.
Right. I always prioritized school from the very beginning. So right when I got to the halfway house, I had one more semester of my bachelor's degree. Luckily, I fought so hard to try to get out early because semester was starting at school. So literally the day I got out, I went to school that day to grab the classes I want to grab. So that was very timely. And what really shifted was, I went back to gangbanging, about 3 or 4 months in, but really I was in a position where everyone else got caught up and it was just me. And I was asking myself, do I really want to do this again from starting over pretty much? And I know the work it takes to build something like that. And ultimately my girlfriend at the time gave me an ultimatum, and she said, hey, and she's been experienced many years into it with me. And she told me pretty much, hey, you need to leave. If you don't leave that organization, then I'm going to leave you. So she gave me that ultimatum, and I'm truly grateful for her to give that to me. And that completely changed my life from that moment.
Dude, that's awesome. Shout outs to her, man.
Yeah.
Shout outs to her, because she appears that she saw something in you, So shout outs to her, man. That's freaking dope. Okay, so you mentioned something though. I want to go back a little bit. You had mentioned that, so you were still in school getting your business management degree while you were still gangbanging then?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was always the case.
Okay.
So to backtrack a little bit, when I was selling drugs, I was involved in the Greek life. So I actually started a fraternity during my school, and, unfortunately, I leveraged that network to distribute drugs. So, obviously Greek life, they like to party. So that was a big that was my system pretty much of selling, of distributing.
So, okay. So you joined the fraternity, basically. You were serving to them. They were able to pay you, get money from there to basically pay your way through school.
I had a runner for almost every campus around California.
Wow. Holy crap. I'm like, what? Holy crap. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so you finished your business management degree. How did you break into tech? With that background? Yeah.
So, well, first I had to get some odd and end jobs because I had the felonies on my record. So there was a time period where I had to wait until my probation ends so I could expunge my record. So there's a few years post-graduation where I was still working at a restaurant, for example. I remember I was also a janitor at a bowling alley, just getting paid minimum wage, cleaning people's shit and piss. It's the worst kind of job ever, honestly, just to pay the bills. Because I knew that if I wanted to be the place where I want to be at, I had to start there. And there was no other way. I was applying to jobs like Denny's and other restaurants, and they denied me because of my record. But
damn.
But yeah, I picked up a lot of odd jobs. And then once I had the opportunity to expunge my record, hired a lawyer, that's when I broke into the corporate world. And then I first went to a car rental company. So that was my first corporate experience. Did a couple years there. And then I actually left that company with a coworker and then started my first venture, which was creating a travel app where it's kind of like Instagram meets TripAdvisor, where you have a social feed where you could post your trips and people could copy and paste the trips you've been to. Because oftentimes than not, you have peers and family members that want to copy parts of your itinerary because people like to go to the same places. And especially if it's going to help them reduce the planning and reduce the, the financial budgeting part of it. So,
dude, damn, that's pretty smart.
So me and my buddy did that for 3 years, actually. Yeah. So we both quit our corporate jobs, used our own money, started this travel tech company for 3 years.
Right.
Yeah.
Dude, that's actually pretty smart because I spend so much time researching every time I go somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's 3 months worth of planning.
Yeah. So I love travel very much to this day. It's one of my greatest passions is to travel the world.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So you basically got your record expunged. You worked as a janitor while you were waiting to basically get a job in tech. So you went to work at a car rental place, then you left there and you guys basically started this application, kind of like you said, Instagram meets TripAdvisor.
Yes.
And so was that your guys' stuff? How long did you guys do that for?
We did it for 3 years, from 2017 to 2020. Okay. And then we eventually ran out of money. Because software development is quite expensive. So me and my then partner, my business partner, decided to get a W-2 in tech so we could bolster ourselves in learning more about technology and also get a pretty decent salary to support the side business.
Okay, so this cuts into the other tech because I didn't know about the
app. I forgot to tell you.
I didn't know about the app. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so you did 3 years. Basically, you started this on your own with your buddy. I guess things didn't pan out after 3 years.
So I would say halfway in the 3 years, that's when we decided to get our corporate jobs in tech, which we did. So we were working 2 full-time jobs at that time. So I was working 80-hour weeks, working the 40-hour weeks for my W-2 tech job, and then also outside of that, nights and weekends on the travel app.
Wow. Okay, I did not know that. Damn. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so let's go back a little bit because there's a couple of things, there's a couple missing pieces here. So if I remember correctly, so you started working at the tech job, but now you're also working your other job, which is the app, doing 80 hours. Eventually, you left the app and just, I guess, let it go.
Right.
What did you guys do with the app?
The last string was, we actually we didn't see the growth that we anticipated with these apps. The main thing that you're trying to go for is growth. So you don't really realize revenue until later on when you start to build a monetization business model. So for us, we grew our user base to about 1,000 users, but we just experienced really slow growth. And for us, the way that we envision the technology it required a lot of it will require a lot of capital, and we just didn't really have the capital at the time. And then also the pandemic hit in 2020, which was the last plug. We were like, hey, let's just dissolve the company.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Now it makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So you basically started working, or you kept the job at the
Correct.
The other tech company.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, you had mentioned that at that tech company basically was where you made your first millions.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. So you made your first millions at this tech company, and then you basically eventually you got fired from the job. You got let go. Okay. So, and then you decided basically to just bet on yourself. To me, this is crazy because I'm like, you get fired, you bet on yourself, but not just that, you decided to move from Austin. It was from Austin to St. Louis to start a real estate investing career with no knowledge in real estate, no knowledge in investing, correct?
For the most part, yeah. I already had my first home in Austin. It's not really investing, but I bought my first primary residence at the time, yeah. But yeah, I pretty much did that.
Tell us about that, because like what goes through like the mind of someone who has been, a company for several years, has made millions and decides that he's tired of basically and wants to get into real estate with no experience of real estate or investing. Like what goes through your mind to say, you know what, let's just pack up and go?
Yeah. I really dislike corporate, though I made my first significant amount of wealth through corporate. I just don't really see myself working in corporate for the rest of my life. So, and I've always been an entrepreneur since I was young. I invested in a flip in St. Louis with a buddy of mine, and that really went well. So, I knew I wanted to get into real estate and more in depth in real estate. So what I did was, I was trying to find, what in real estate that I could be successful in. Well, most of my skills came from my corporate job in tech, and I built the sales development side of things over there, and I was the first manager actually in that tech role. So I knew how to build a outbound prospecting engine, and inbound as well. So what I knew was, hey, I'm really good at sales, and that's what I love to do. So that gravitated me towards wholesaling real estate, because I knew that, I could implement my existing experience and skills and then transfer that towards real estate, and specifically wholesaling. And what I did was, I knew that I could have done it in Austin, where I resided in at the time, but Austin was a hyper competitive market at the time, especially a little bit before and after the pandemic happened. Everything just blew up, and I knew that it was going to be difficult for me at the time, I thought it would be difficult for me to do wholesaling there. So I resorted to, hey, what about wholesaling in St. Louis? So did more research. I knew that if I were to do wholesaling over there, I would get more deals. So it's going to be more volume, but the deal sizes will be smaller. I knew that, but I wanted to have more consistency, and just the affordability of, the price points there and investing and wholesaling was much lower. I'm a big risk taker, as you know. So I'm just like, let's just pack my bags and literally put everything in my car, bought my dog with me, and then just literally drove up there. And then I only had been there one time before, and I don't know anything about the city. So I just learned from that moment when I arrived there.
Wow, dude. Yeah. Damn. I don't know if I could do that, man. That just sounds too risky to me. I guess the good thing is that you were single. You didn't have kids or anything like that. Right. So you can literally just, you know what? Let's just go. So that's a blessing in itself.
It is. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. Okay, gotcha. So you basically went over there and you started doing wholesaling. It went well, but let's backtrack a little bit, because out of the millions that you made in the tech company, a lot of those were stocks, right? So I want you to talk about this, because I've only ever heard this done by the big wigs. I know Elon Musk talked about it before, and that's basically collateralizing your stock portfolio.
Yeah.
Right. So you collateralized that, and you, if I remember correctly, it was $500,000 that you took, and you started buying properties, and that's how you were able to, buy the properties that you were able to buy in St. Louis. But at the same time, starting, a new, really being a real estate investor at that time, you just got started. You basically bought some bad debt, or bought some properties that weren't the greatest. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll answer the first part. So I was just scrolling through Instagram, and a lot of my feed is about real estate and business. So I just stumbled across this reel, and I forgot who it is, honestly, but they talked about collateralizing, your existing assets, like your stocks, for a line of credit. And that really just sparked this idea. I'm like, I have a bunch of stocks. What if I collateralize this? So I did more research, talked to a bunch of banks, and understood that for anyone out there and your listeners to know too, you could collateralize any asset you have, whether that be equities, any stocks you might have, whether that be cash, whether that be a house as well, the equity in your house. So I understood that I could collateralize about 50% of what the value of my stocks were. So, my stock portfolio at the time was probably worth around $1 million at the time. So what I did was I collateralized that asset and then got about a $500,000 line of credit. So I used that line of credit with the intention to pretty much invest in properties in St. Louis. And that's exactly what I did.
Gotcha. So you basically have to go to a bank though and say, hey, I want to collateralize my stock. That's basically
well, not all banks do offer that, but most of the major banks like E-Trade or TD, Morgan Stanley, Raymond James Financial. So these banks will do the collateralization. Obviously, it has to go under their underwriting process. But I just started to talk to a bunch of banks and see what terms the best terms I could get. And actually, I found this idea to be so brilliant because I talked to my other peers that worked for the tech company. I was like, hey, let's have a meeting. And I showed them how to do it. Because, for me, I like helping out other people. And a lot of people, they always ask me hey, what should I do with my stocks? I showed them this idea. I was like, hey, you could collateralize it and then you get this line of credit. Then you could use that for anything you want. Do it for any investments that you wish to pursue. Literally had a meeting with them and just love teaching people.
Dude, that's what's up, man. Shit. Okay. Now my wheels are turning.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. So you mentioned that you have bought some properties. But you got into some bad debt. You bought some bad properties and it's taking you some time to actually, get out of that debt. I want you to, talk to our viewers about that. What happened? How are you getting yourself out of that debt?
Yeah. So I had this very stupid, ambitious goal in 2024 where I wanted to purchase and acquire 12 properties in that year. So me as a salesperson, I always wanted to hit my quota and achieve my goals. So the first 6 months of 2024, I had acquired 6 properties. So I was
one a month. Okay.
And a lot of them came from my wholesaling pipeline. But yeah, the majority of them didn't really pan out the way that I envisioned it, just because the deals, it was bad deals. I mean, construction was way under budgeted. Construction timelines more than doubled. There's various factors. Also, the appraisals that we have received in the beginning was definitely overshot in value. So I've came to an understanding that even if you get a good appraisal when you're doing the refinance part of the BRRRR, that when you're selling it later on, if you do decide to, that the resale value is different than the refinancing value. So there was a big delta between those two numbers, which also took a hit into my exit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay, so you bought some properties, not the greatest, but now you got the wholesale thing going, and now basically you're paying back all this bad debt, or not bad debt, because it is what it is. These loans, right? Talk about what it takes, what you had to do to be able to get those things done. Okay, I had to, get more wholesales. Because remember you had a team of 8 people right, at the time. Right, so how did you basically structure to be able to say, okay, you know what, these are the things that I got to do. These are the decisions that I got to make to be able to get out of this.
Yeah. I wanted to also give you some context on how I got there. So because I collateralized my stocks, the value of the stocks goes up and down. So if it goes down to a certain threshold, then I am open to getting margin called. The stock didn't perform well for the past, in 2024 till today, actually. It usually it's been hovering 50 to 60% below, 40 to 50% below the IPO price. So the stock has been struggling. And in 2025, especially in April when Trump implemented the tariffs, I mean, the market crashed, and that was a really big margin call for me. So I was stressed out of my mind. Like I didn't sleep, honestly, that whole month, I would say. Like it wasn't much because I was getting calls from the bank and they're like, hey, like as soon as the stock drops down and at the end of closing, when the market closes that day, I'm going to get a call from my broker, and he's going to let me know, hey, Anthony, like you've been margin called. You have to pay $100,000 by tomorrow. You have to pay $50,000 by tomorrow. So it was so much of that in 2025. And I'm just here scrambling, figuring out how to pay this thing. Because if I don't pay it, then they're going to sell my stocks at a steep discount, which is going to be huge opportunity loss for me. So what I did was I did everything I can to try to salvage it. So I was calling a bunch of friends and family, asked to borrow money, and that only went so far. So I also used my credit cards, which is I had like probably $200,000 or $300,000 worth of credit limits for my credit cards, because doing these rehabs, like we spend a lot of money on the construction. So we had a huge line of credit on across all my cards. So what I did was every time I get margin called, I would just pay the margin call with my credit card. So I maxed that out too, but I kept getting margin called more throughout the year. So I eventually ran out of options, obviously. So I had to, at one point, I forgot when it was, but every earnings call for this stock just didn't really perform. Like it will always drop 30 to 50% every earnings call for the stock. And it was a lot of anxiety and stress leading up to these earnings calls because I don't know what's going to happen. And it's just how the market reacts, and I have no control over it, which sucks. And what I would do is, there was a point where I think it was late August, early September of last year, where it got the earnings call from the previous quarter dropped so much, and the bank decided to reduce my leverage on the collateralization. So my leverage had to be at 55% to make sure it's in good standing. And say, hey, like, now it's at 35%. So they reduced my leverage, which means that I had to sell almost the entirety of my stocks in order to be in good standing with the bank. And I was like, hey, like, I was looking at the contract in the beginning, and it said in fine print that they have the ability to change my leverage at any time. And I did not know that coming into this, because if they kept the same leverage for me, I probably would have survived the rest of the year. And then coincidentally, like this company got bought out by a big tech company that's been around for on the block for a while. So that the acquisition happened, or actually the announcement with the big acquisition happened actually in December. So had I survived into December, it would have been a different story. But I had to sell everything in September.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeez. Well, I mean, shit, man. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, so you got margin called. Apparently, you got margin called a couple of times throughout the year. So you had mentioned sometime last year, you were actually thinking about going back to your 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned that somehow, some way, you came into faith.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
I was at a very low point in my life, probably the lowest point, I would say. It actually felt worse than when I was locked up, when I lost everything, lost my entire wealth that I've accumulated over, many years of hard work. So I lost that, and that really took a hit on me mentally. And I came to a stage of depression. I really didn't know what to do. I mean, I didn't talk to anyone about it, to be honest. Not even my close friends, or my family does know, but outside of that, I really didn't have anyone to turn to. I decided to get baptized in May last year. And I knew the only thing that would help me out is if I continued to read the word. And I did that every single night. I prayed every single morning, and that really helped me get through this tough situation, knowing that God had my back and he will always have it.
Man.
Yeah.
That's beautiful because I've been saved for the past 7 years. And it's the best decision I've ever made in my life.
Yeah.
It's like I'm much more at peace. I don't let things bother me. Whatever happens, this happens for a reason. He has a better outcome for us. It's like we can be going through some hard times, but he's like, you know what? I got you. So dude, I thank you for sharing that, man. That speaks volume, especially, when and you've been through stuff like that. You've been through your hard times. I went through some hard times myself, man, and everything changed for me when I was able to just say, you know what, just give my life, and yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Cool. So you moved back to Cali, right? But you're still wholesaling in St. Louis. You have that business going, established, and now you're literally finally getting out of this, mess that you were in.
I'm still going through it.
Yeah, you're still going through it, but you're in a lot better place.
Yeah.
You're in a much better place. So talk to us about that, being able to, you know what, I'm doing better. Let me go to Cali. What was the move to Cali? Like you went from Austin to St. Louis and then to Cali. Why'd you go to Cali? You just missed home or what?
Yeah.
Because you had a thriving, it's thriving, it's doing well. And you decided to move back. I mean,
my whole intention was not to live in St. Louis. The whole plan was to get the experience, build my portfolio, build my business in St. Louis, and then return back home and repeat the process at home. So I know that my risk in the Midwest, doing real estate in the markets over there, will reduce my risk, right? And then just imagine it like I was just playing like the little league, right?
Yeah.
So, and I could mess up if I wanted to, and which I did, right? And I had a lot of lessons with that, but I wanted to use the lessons and my experience in that time period, the 3 years I had been there, and then apply it back home where, the big leagues are.
Yeah.
So have yet to implement that, but that was my whole attention, which is why I moved back to Cali. Yeah. And I felt like my business was at a good place where I could do that virtually.
Awesome. Beautiful. Perfect. All right, man. Thank you so much for that. Where are you like now in your journey? Like what are you doing right now? Where do you see yourself in the next, let's just say 5 years?
Yeah. Right now I'm still paying off my debt. Okay. So that's my first order, is to generate revenue to pay down this debt. So the way I've been paying down the debt is literally what I do and love to do is just sales. So trying to sell as many wholesale deals that I possibly can. So been through that for, I would say, honestly, I invested a lot into joining masterminds, which is how we met. So joined like 3 masterminds in the past 6 months, completely changed the game for me and the way that I operate my real estate business. And for me to get access to people that have the same mindset, just like yourself and other folks, just having that community where, you could ask questions and people could help you out was a game changer for me. So been doing that, really focusing on trying to get my first 6-figure month in wholesaling assignment fees. I think we could get there pretty soon, which is quite amazing from where my business was at prior. Another big plan I have this year is to take this virtual wholesaling to the next level, which means I've been like I mentioned to you before, I love traveling and I want to see how I could mix real estate and traveling together. So one of the things I have in store for 2026 is how can I build this virtual wholesaling business and scale it up while traveling the world? Okay, so I have a plan this year to be a digital nomad in the Gran Canary Islands in Spain for 3 months.
Damn.
So I have that planned. And I've been doing a lot of research, talk to other digital nomad entrepreneurs and kind of lean on their experience, watching a lot of stuff. So I'm gonna do that for 3 months in Europe while growing my wholesale business virtually. And we plan to obviously hit, 7 figures for this year. And then just really, I'm a big believer in like location freedom.
Yeah.
Right. So if your real estate business can operate virtually anywhere, why can't you just do it while you're anywhere in the world?
Exactly.
So if this goes well, which I'm sure it will, for the 3 months. 2027, probably do it for 6 months. And then create, one of the big plans I have is like to prove this out to anyone that, hey, you could build a virtual wholesaling business from anywhere in the world and having that location freedom. Because it's not just financial freedom, which everyone talks about a lot. Not a lot of people talk about location freedom, right? Because you might have financial freedom, but you're kind of stuck in a specific area, which is typically your hometown.
Yeah.
But what if you could unlock the location freedom and financial freedom at the same time?
Yeah.
Right. So what I plan to do, and one of my big aspirations is like start documenting my journey of just like what I love to do is like travel.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna create a bunch of content around travel, create a bunch of content on virtual wholesaling, grow my business in the wholesaling side, creating a bunch of travel content, and just really create a colliding of both of those worlds together, which I love.
Oh man, that's awesome, man. Document it, because I would love to freaking be on that journey with you, just watching the videos. Oh damn, dude, that's it. We actually spoke about that a while back.
Yeah,
so it was something that's on my list as well. We'll talk a little bit more off camera about that. Okay. That's pretty cool. All right, cool. So let me ask you, like, any advice that you would like to share with the audience for those people who, may be thinking, damn, I can't do this. Someone who may have been incarcerated like yourself and that says, you know what, I can't do this. It's too hard. Or someone that may be going through a rough time, substance abuse. Any advice to them on like how they can actually, help their mindset get out of that rut that they're in?
Yeah, I think really it's a limited belief. And I wholeheartedly believe they just need to really audit their circle. So for me, like,
huge.
It's so huge. People talk about it a lot, but it really is important. It's the most important thing if you want to grow as an individual and to pursue your dreams. So, for me, like my experience, so I was hanging with a bunch of gangsters. So, when I audited my circle, I'm like, hey, I'm not going to hang with these people again. I don't want to be like them no more.
Yeah.
So I started to audit my circle, and then I started to hang out with tech people. And nothing wrong with tech people, but I wanted to see myself more as an entrepreneur, and I wanted to surround myself with other business people and business operators and people that are actually pursuing the life that they want. So I audit my circle, okay, bunch of corporate people, which is fine. Let's change it up again, audit again. So audit my circle again. And now, a lot of the people that I'm closest to, a lot of people that I communicate pretty frequently are business owners, whether it be real estate or, other industries. So I like to surround myself with, other people that are a couple steps above where I want to be at and people that are living the dream I want to be. So I think my advice really is to audit your circle and then figure out, hey, who should I limit my time with, and be very intentional about it. So, hey, maybe this person isn't too healthy for me, or maybe this person isn't positive in my life. So just limit them. I'm not saying like remove them completely out of your life, although that is an option if you want to, but just limit your exposure to them. And there's no hard feelings. And then it's like building a roster. You take one person out and you start to see, hey, who is a good person to be now where I want to be at, this new person for the next level I want to be at. So, and you have to start searching. So my best advice there is to start joining masterminds. And had I knew this sooner, I would have done it a lot sooner, but I've only learned that 6 months ago. So, as you start to audit your circle, and it's different phases too. Yeah. So there's different levels to it. So there's going to be a point where you have to start paying to be in the next level of the next circle that you're going to have, right?
I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. So I'm at a point where I'm paying for it. Like I've paid, $30,000 in just masterminds the past 6 months here. And it's been life-changing. And I have access to a lot of people that I look up to, and they're helping me a lot.
Yeah, dude, that's such great advice, man. Thank you for that. Any books that you recommend, that have helped you along the way?
I'm not a big book person besides the Bible.
Honestly, dude, if there was one, that'd be it.
That'd be it. That'd be the only thing.
That'd be it.
Yeah, the only thing.
That doesn't have to be real estate, but at least to change your life. That'd be it for me. That's awesome. So do you have a quote that kind of has changed your life or changed the way you think? I have one. I'll share mine with you.
Okay.
My quote comes from, Jesus Christ, right? Luke 4:24. Truly, I tell you, no prophet is accepted in his hometown. Like I heard that, actually through Pace Morby. He quoted Jesus Christ at one of the meetups that we were at. And it struck me because I was like, it's so true. Like the people that you surround yourself with in your hometown will be the ones that kind of won't support you, but I understand why they don't support you. It's because they've seen your flaws. They've seen, where you've messed up, like he's whatever, this guy or that guy. I remember when he messed up here, why would I listen to him? So Jesus Christ himself had to get out of his hometown so he could start prophesying, and then people started taking him seriously. So it's kind of like the same thing as entrepreneurs, like the people that, I remember when I started real estate, the first person that gave me my shot was someone that I didn't know, like not someone that knew me, not someone that was close to me. It was actually someone that didn't know me. And then eventually people started seeing, me doing my own things, and now they're calling me, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? So that's like literally one of my favorite ones that has kind of like changed, my mindset, because I'm like, it happened to Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Like, who am I?
And that's what they say, like, your audience is not going to applaud you during your journey. They applaud you when you've already been successful. So
they don't see the trials and tribulations, the late nights, the no sleep, the not going out to hang out or whatever, like, and then they kind of say like, oh, who are you? Now you want to hang out when you've made it, whenever you want to come around? No, I'm busy. I'm trying to build my dream life for myself, my kids, my family.
Yeah. And that's just a part of life. When I mentioned earlier, like auditing your circle, and it's nothing personal to that individual. It's like, I want something better for my life. And unfortunately, we're not in alignment with that anymore. Like, I'll hang out with you here and there, but for us to have a more frequent communication or hanging out on the weekends, drinking or partying, like that doesn't fit what I'm looking for. And it comes down to the habits that you're implementing every single day. And it boils down to like not what you do, but also what you don't do, what you avoid. So for me, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't go out anymore. I'm just really laser focused on what I need to do.
All right, brother. So you got no quote?
Well, yeah, my quote, it's not biblical, but my quote would be, and this is just one that just kind of came to mind here, and I'm not sure if it's exact, but Alex Hormozy, which love him, by the way, and just really plain and simple, he said, the magic that you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. So we all know what we need to do, but we just avoid it at a subconscious level. And we're like, I know exactly what I want to do and what I need to do, but we just avoid it because it's hard. It's just it just takes a lot of work, and work that we don't want to do, but we know exactly what we need to do. And that's in that work you're avoiding is exactly what you need to do to progress to the next level.
Yeah.
So just plain and simple right there, just do the work that you're avoiding.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. It took me some time, and finally, after I stopped avoiding the work that I didn't want to do, things started changing for me. And I mean, honestly, I'm happy to say that you were actually a part of that change for me too.
I appreciate it.
So thank you for that, man. All right, cool, man. That's it for us. I definitely would like to part ways with just a little prayer, if you don't mind.
Sure.
All right. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this opportunity that you've given myself and Anthony to be here together. Thank you for allowing him to make it here safe and sound, so we can share his story with others. And hopefully this story will find that person that really needed to hear it for themselves, be it who it be, person that's struggling with depression, substance abuse or whatnot. We hope that, his story can touch them and it finds them. They can make some changes in their life for the better. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Later, guys.
Later.